Have you ever bent over backwards to help someone, constantly sacrificing your own time, money, and energy, only to realize they treat you significantly worse than the people who do absolutely nothing for them? We are taught from a very young age that being endlessly nice and always saying yes will make people love us. But the brutal psychological reality is that giving without boundaries actually breeds deep, irreversible disrespect. Before we dive into today's life-changing lesson on the dark side of people-pleasing, please take a quick moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel so we can continue bringing you these powerful stories. On the coldest, most bitter night of the winter season, a young merchant named Silas lay freezing in his dark, empty home, staring blankly at the ceiling and wondering why not a single person had come to check on him. Silas had spent his entire adult life being the ultimate people-pleaser of the busy harbor town, giving away his hard-earned money, doing heavy favors for lazy neighbors, and always smiling even when he was completely exhausted. He genuinely believed that if he was constantly available, endlessly forgiving, and never uttered the word no, the townspeople would eventually love him, protect him, and treat him as their most valuable, cherished friend. But human nature is deeply flawed, and because his extreme kindness was completely free and always guaranteed, the villagers quickly stopped seeing it as a precious gift and started demanding it as a basic, expected right. When Silas fell terribly ill with a severe winter fever, unable to chop his own firewood or cook his own meals, he naturally assumed that the dozens of people he had helped would eagerly rush to his door to return the favor. But for 3 agonizing, freezing days, his wooden door remained completely silent, and as he watched his neighbors happily walking past his freezing window, the bitter, heartbreaking reality of his situation finally crushed his spirit. They did not actually love him, and they certainly did not respect his character. They simply loved how incredibly useful, cheap, and convenient his lack of boundaries was to their own selfish, demanding lives. Dragging his weak, shivering body out of bed, Silas walked deep into the freezing forest to seek the harsh, unfiltered wisdom of an old, solitary blacksmith named Thorn, a man deeply respected by everyone but feared by fools. Thorn was pounding glowing, red-hot iron on a massive metal anvil, barely looking up as the pale, shivering young man poured out his tragic story of ultimate betrayal and completely unappreciated kindness. Why does my endless generosity only bring me deep disrespect, while men who are completely cold and distant are treated like absolute royalty by the town? Silas coughed, desperately wrapping his thin blanket around his shaking shoulders. Thorn plunged the scorching iron into a barrel of freezing water, letting the violent steam fill the dark room before turning his piercing, ancient eyes toward the completely broken young merchant. If a baker stands in the street and gives away his finest bread for free every single day, the starving crowd will eventually stop thanking him and start violently demanding their daily loaf. The blacksmith growled with a heavy voice. But if that exact same baker locks his doors, protects his time, and only sells his bread for a high price, the people will gladly pay him in pure gold and deeply respect his incredibly valuable trade. You have completely stripped away your own value by making your time, energy, and kindness cheaper than dirt. And you cannot expect powerful predators to respect a man who willingly lies down like a dirty doormat. True respect is absolutely never given to those who constantly beg for social approval. It is strictly reserved for those who possess the quiet, dangerous strength to firmly enforce their own personal boundaries. Silas returned to the harbor town with a hardened, completely transformed mind, locking his front door, focusing entirely on his own health, and permanently cutting off the emotional leeches who had drained his life. When his lazy neighbors finally came knocking the following week to demand their usual free favors, Silas simply looked them directly in the eyes and calmly, firmly told them no without offering a single apology or weak explanation. At first, the townspeople were absolutely furious, aggressively calling him arrogant and selfish because they were completely terrified of losing their favorite, highly obedient servant. But Silas completely ignored their childish tantrums and loud gossip, quietly building his own massive wealth, focusing entirely on his own future, and fiercely protecting his newfound peace of mind. Within a few short months, a profound and undeniable psychological shift occurred within the town. Because they could no longer easily manipulate him, they were violently forced to actually respect him. When Silas finally did choose to offer his help on very rare occasions, it was no longer treated as a cheap expectation, but rather received as a massive, highly cherished honor that commanded total, absolute gratitude. This brutally honest story holds an incredibly urgent lesson for anyone suffering from the exhausting, toxic disease of chronic people-pleasing and the desperate, endless need for external validation. When you are endlessly nice to people who constantly cross your boundaries, you are actively teaching them that your feelings do not matter and that there are absolutely zero consequences for treating you terribly. Kindness without the solid spine to say no is not actually kindness at all. It is a weak, fearful manipulation tactic designed to make people like you, and it will fail you every single time. You must fundamentally understand that people do not value what they can get for absolutely free, and your constant, immediate availability is secretly completely destroying your social value. Stop giving your premium, incredibly expensive energy to people who only want to pay you with cheap, empty promises and highly conditional, fake loyalty that disappears the moment you actually need them. The exact moment you start disappointing toxic people by firmly enforcing your boundaries is the exact moment you will finally start making yourself incredibly proud and building a deeply authentic life. You must learn to become highly comfortable with being the villain in a manipulator's story, completely accepting that true inner peace is infinitely more valuable than fake social popularity. Start fiercely protecting your time. Absolutely demand the exact same level of effort that you give to others. And absolutely never apologize for refusing to let other people carelessly wipe their muddy shoes on your warm heart. You are not required to set yourself entirely on fire just to keep incredibly ungrateful people warm, and it is entirely okay to firmly walk away from anyone who only loves the parts of you they can easily use. Reclaim your absolute power today. Raise your personal price tag so high that the cheap people walk away, and fiercely protect the brilliant, beautiful life you are meant to live. If you found true value in this story and learned something incredibly important about demanding respect today, please hit that like button, leave a comment below about your journey, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful life lessons.